Hi, this is Wendy Kay with Hummingbird Studios, and I'm here to talk about our third installment of mixed media and multitasking. So it's actually called Multitasking for the Multimedia Artist. With each task, I am presenting a book to you, a task I'm doing out of that book, and a tip that should help that you probably already know that may not be doing, but I want to show you how I'm doing it. So if you'll follow me along. Today, our book that we're focusing on is Art at the Speed of Light by Pam Carricker. And if you don't have it, get it. It's incredible. We are focusing on a substrate that she asks you to make in the book, just to have ready to do any kind of foreground that you want. And I have followed pretty much the figure 1 and figure 2 as best I could. And I'm going to tell you how I worked with what I had and with what I didn't have. Now let me show you the substrate I ended up with. This is the background that I ended up with. I'm very happy with it. I think it's got a lot of potential. I can't wait to see what climbs out of it. And I'm going to show you the differences of what Pam asked me to do and what I did to kind of make it special to my own studio. First of all, she had asked for some supplies that I didn't have or couldn't find or couldn't afford to buy if I did find it. We all know these things get very expensive very quickly, and we go through them like they are milk and candy when they cost $19.99 a bottle. So she called for some things that I kind of mixed my own. So I couldn't find the exact paint she had asked for, but looking through my wonderful barrel of paint, which we all have, I found two very cheap 99-cent Walmart paints that one of them is a metallic sequin black and one of them is an dioxidized purple. And it actually, I mixed the two of them together, and you're supposed to mix it with an acrylic medium flow, actually an airbrushing flow, which it makes it really flow nicely and very watery, but a nice flow and hold to it. Well, I couldn't find the airbrush medium, but I did have this wonderful sample. As a teacher, I'm very lucky. I travel around a lot to a lot of conventions and I get samples. So I had this sample of what is called is acrylic flow medium. So I mixed the two together with the acrylic flow medium in my wonderful favorite things, these little jars that you can get for 50 cents at Walmart, Target. Target's my favorite. Mix it up, and as you notice, I kept it because I think it's a beautiful purple. I'm not about to throw it away. Waste not, want not. That's what we're talking about today. We are talking about art at the speed of light and the substrate I'm doing, but we're also going to focus on waste not, want not, and don't you dare, if there's any paint left in that brush, put it in that water because there's something you can do with it. So what I did, took it and squirted it down. At first, it was a little too thick. As you can see, the dark did not run as much as I wanted it to. So guess what I did? I just added good old-fashioned water to liquefy it, and I think it came out very nice. I think it's going to be a nice substrate. I can't wait to see what I'm going to put on top of it. So now I have a purple mix that I love. It's saved, ready to put away. Now, the next step that Pam asked for was to take an oxide, a deep oxide, and take a toothbrush and flick it on there. Well, I didn't have a toothbrush, and I didn't have the oxide. So what I used was something I literally still have from art school, believe it or not, is walnut ink crystals. And I have it mixed up in a little Progresso artichoke heart jar. They are my favorites, so we have a lot of these jars. And I put it in, yes, an empty Dove travel size spray. And so what I did was I sprayed on there instead of flicking. I sprayed it on there, and I think that we got a nice good. And I let it fall down, and it was pretty wet, and let it fall down to create what we got. And so overall, I am absolutely thrilled with what I got. The last thing is she asked to add stamps. I have a few stamps, but I don't like to use cutesy stamps on my work. So what I did was, right now I'm kind of obsessed with trees and circles in trees. So I took a bottle, an old bottle, and dipped it in white paint and pressed it on to the substrate to create this image. And I think that later I'm going to pick up. Sorry guys, there we go. I want to do something like this in the background. Obviously not so colorful. I want to stick with, this is a tree I did in my journal, but I'm keeping it out for inspirational purposes. If I keep out my ideas, keep out my visions, then it helps a lot when it comes time to create. So, sorry about the focus problem there. So I'm going to keep that tree out for my own remembering things. And I do think I'm going to follow her book pretty closely. This was the step I'm on. The next step is to add, a layer of sky and a layer of grass. And then add the trees. I do want to add the trees, but I also want to add, in the center, the circle tree that I talked about with bottles that are bigger and make the ink bigger to make that same substrate feeling, or the feeling I had on my substrate with the white circles. And then I will probably, knowing me, add a hummingbird to the center. This is a cutout of one of my prints, one of my artist proofs. That I will probably add onto here with a tree in the back. So I am not exactly going the way that Pam went with hers. She had this adorable little girl with the angels, but I think I'm going to go with my hummingbird and my tree in the front instead. So what I'm showing you basically is how I'm taking Pam's book, Art at the Speed of Life, and I am doing with what I've got, which is what most of us have to do, and making it my own. And I think that's what we all do. Now, do you all know this? And am I giving you any life-changing philosophies? No, but hopefully I'm reminding you, and it's something that you can use in your daily life, in your work, in your studio. Now, we are talking about Art at the Speed of Life, and we are talking about my substrate, but most of all, we're talking about waste not, want not. And if there's any paint left on that brush, do not put it in that water. I want to share with you one thing I learned. These are all of my paper towels where I have wiped my paint. And I use them, I keep them, I flatten them out. And I use them, I tear them apart and use them in my collages. Oh, it's the most amazing thing ever. I actually got that idea from Collage Unleashed, another great book. If you'll look here, I have a piece of plywood that I got for 51 cents at Home Depot. Home Depot, 51 cents. Can I repeat that? 51 cents. I put my grounding over it, and if you look at the great texture that the wood already has, so after I gessoed, it just, it has this great feeling. So if you have not discovered the joys of going to Home Depot and looking in their scrap box, please go do it. If you don't have money for your canvases, sorry, it's late guys, I apologize. If you don't have money for your canvases, down here I'm working on wood as well on another piece. all that's wood that I've put together. Wood is a very cheap substrate, so go for it. Go to Home Depot. You will love it. So what I did was, after I put my gesso all over here, I still had it on the brush. I was not about to put the paint in, or the gesso in there when it still had gesso in it. So what I did was I went over my substrate completely with gesso, and it softened and whitened and added to the texture of my substrate. So another waste not, want not. Use every little bit. Every little bit counts, especially as an artist. Who knew 2 years ago when I got this little sample that I would be using it tonight? So let's see. My promise to you was to give you the third multimedia multitasking tip, and that is waste not, want not. We talked about using things that we already have in our studio, those cheap paints that some people might look down on, but oh, I love them. I have 2 full drawers of paints that you cannot imagine. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you have your drawers. And are they all expensive paints? No. Some of them are the cheap ones, and sometimes they work the best. And sometimes, like I said, adding good old water can do just the same as adding a very expensive medium. Now, it might not have the holding and the texture that they truly want with it, and those things do have the value, but for what I'm doing right now, this worked perfectly. Save your paper towels. Look at what beautiful colors that I can cut out and put in my collages. I just love them. And go to Home Depot and visit that section. Also, another tip, if you go to Home Depot and you go to the paint section, ask them where their discarded paints are, because they will have discarded paints, gallons, sometimes pints. A pint will sell for $1, and these are paints that have been mixed, and they were mistakes, and the people didn't want them. So you can get an entire, I got this for $1 at Home Depot, and it's this wonderful red. Isn't that great? For $1. And then the big heavy ones, or not heavy ones, well, the big gallons are $5. So that's another trick. Home Depot can be a wonderful, wonderful place. So waste not, want not. If there's anything left on that brush, find something to do with it. If you have your journal open, use that gesso in your journal. If you have another substrate waiting and ready, then put that substrate there so that you can start on another one. Use the gesso and start on another one. And then finally, when all the paint's out of that brush, or all the gesso's out of that brush, then I give you permission to put it in the water. All right. That's just one of my pet peeves. We are closing by reminding you that I am doing art at the speed of light today. I'm on the second figure in, let's see, I'm on the second figure in her book where here we go. Okay, Wendy, have your pages ready. I'm on the second figure. Hopefully next time I'll be on the third figure, but I'll also be working in another book. Remember, multitasking. So, and we also got to enjoy Tracy's Collage Unleashed. The one big thing I got out of there was the use of the paper towels. Love it, love it, love it. Girls, guys, I hope you've read the first 2 posts with the first 2 multimedia tasks. How to be an ADD art person, where you are addicted to books and you have a million projects going at once. How to multitask, and how to get those projects done and stay busy and get through all those wonderful books that are stacked up by your bed or on your studio.